Hare Krishna. Welcome everyone. Uh, Hi Gulab, can you confirm if you can hear me? Okay. I hope everybody can hear me. If not, then just let me know. We'll start with our customary prayers. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Sri Chaitanya Manobishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam. Vandeham जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि श्री गौर भक्त वृंद हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे. So thanks a lot everybody for joining. I'll be sharing my screen. Let me know once you are able to see this. How to share looks like my entire screen. Can see my PPT? I hope so. Anu or Sai Rahul, can you please confirm?
Yes, I can see the screen.
Yes, we can see that.
Thank you so much. So last week we discussed chapter 1, and particularly we discussed mindset of Dhritarashtra, mindset of Duryodhana, mindset of Arjun. And Dhritarashtra out of his ignorance and Duryodhana out of his criticism, they were comparing situations, material perspective, how it will benefit them. And they were just calculating how they will be victorious, hoping that things will turn the way they wanted. But Arjuna, being very compassionate, soft-hearted, and devotee of the Lord, he particularly considered that whom he has to kill if he has to proceed with this war. And in that particular situation, he actually approached Krishna to resolve his issue because he was saying if he has to kill Bhishma Drona, his respectable members of family, many of his relatives, so many millions of other soldiers, what will happen to their family, what will happen to ancestors, and what will happen to next generation. So all these calculations Arjuna has to do. So that was a part 1, and then we'll be dwelling deeper into this chapter 2, where Krishna actually starts giving answers to Arjuna's questions. So this second chapter is interestingly, it's Sanskrit it's called as Sankhya Yoga. Sankhya means analysis or systematic analysis or statistics, you can say. And Prabhupada has given the chapter name as the contents of Gita summarized, because technically Krishna didn't, he was actually intending, looking at the chapter content, he was intending to speak only this particular chapter to address all the Arjuna's concern. But Arjuna wanted deeper connection of heart, and he asked some more pertinent questions, and because of that we have additional chapters also. So let's look at the part 1 of this chapter 2. So as we discussed, Arjuna, he was not looking for some kind of superficial pump up the way Duryodhana was trying to do for his army. I mean, these days also, if you are down, you may find so many motivational videos, so many inspiring music, or by hearing them, you feel like, yes, I can do it and I should not lose my tempo and all of that. But for Arjuna, that was not the problem, because on the battlefield already there were so many musical instruments and they had created the battlefield charged atmosphere. Everybody had been blowing their conches and everything. So atmosphere was not the problem for Arjuna. It was much, much deeper, because he was actually surrounded with so many other questions and so many other logics based on whatever he has learned. So there are situation comes in our life as well where it actually very helpful, because in normal day-to-day routine we don't bother about questions and solution for such kind of scenarios. But when there are very critical scenario, particularly like we see death of some near relatives, I'm sure most of us have already seen it, or confident that very soon we might be seeing some deaths in a nearby family, maybe in decades or maybe in nearer than that. And particularly, death may not be the only question, but sometimes you have to take very decision based on some values and principles which may not be exactly matching to our material prospects. So there are conflicting priorities, but in such kind of crisis, when we go deeper, when we actually seek for some guidance, it actually helps us to understand where we are heading and what we need to do. So these chaos are also helpful to certain extent to have that self reflection, and it helps us to realign with our true nature, because in crisis, good people, they actually take difficult decisions, but people who are evil minded like Duryodhana, even in this situation, they are just thinking, how can I make use of others, how can I manipulate others for my own personal purpose. So that crisis situation actually shows one's true nature. And when we are going through this crisis, it's very important that we should not overlook the profound truths, because we don't want our situation to be based on some immediate sense pleasure. We are actually looking for long term, and we want permanent solutions for our problems. So uh, this mindset, it actually helps us to build that equanimity. Equanimity means no matter what happens, whether it's my loss or win, but I am proceeding based on certain solid foundation, maybe philosophical foundation, that understanding, knowledge, based on which I'm performing my actions. So even if result is not to my liking, still I'm very much fixed in my decision. That mindset is very much required when we are proceeding in crisis situation. And of course, this kind of facing this situation, small or big, multiple time, it actually helps mind to make duty bound choices rather than just making some fickle choices and then regretting later. So this kind of situations in life actually helps us to grow throughout our life. Now, for Arjuna, he was already in a very critical situation where he actually was hitting a rock bottom of his consciousness. Why? Because for Arjuna, uh, after explaining all his mind to Krishna, he was actually still not convinced that he should go ahead with this war. And if you look at the first 10 verses of this chapter, he actually explains it again, reiterates, although he has mentioned this concern, he reiterates, and these are very deep rooted concern and for which Arjuna has no answer. How can I proceed with them? So he what kind of argument he's giving, that how can I counter attack? So even if they attack me, how can I counter attack? But for people like Bhishma and Drona, they are so worshipable for me. And there are great souls. I have seen great souls in my own family, and I can see them both the sides of army, not just my army. There are great souls in other army also. And if we kill such kind of great souls in such a battle, whatever we enjoy will be tainted with blood. I will every time I may just try to enjoy this kingdom or that kind of happiness. First thought comes in my mind is, at what cost? So that thought is what will prevent me from even any kind of enjoyment. This grief that I had to kill so much, and I mean, throughout life, I cannot live with that grief that I have committed murders and then I'm trying to enjoy my life. I cannot live that level. So Arjuna is saying that grief is drying up my senses. It is said that Arjuna's hairs were standing on end. He was trembling and he just sat on the battle chariot, saying that even this kingdom on earth, this victory in this battle is not going to help me. What I'm looking is very deep and established conviction knowledge, which will help me to decide what is the best for me. And Arjuna says that this knowledge I do not have with me, Krishna. This conviction I do not have with me. So he's telling Krishna, please tell me what is best for me. You please tell me. And that to not just telling in binary manner, with the proper explanation why something is best for me. Please instruct me. He's saying, no, please consider me as a disciple and then consider a soul surrendered unto you. This surrender is very, very important word. We'll look multiple times as we proceed through discussion of these slides. So why we need a spiritual master? Okay. Now, this is a very important question before proceeding. Now, spiritual master is not a personality. In this case, it was directly Krishna. But it in our life, we there are so many online people who give so many different guidance, or they may just give you some goody guidance how to proceed in life, how to fight out through certain situations. But as far as Gita is concerned, it's very important that spiritual master himself also need to have some qualifications. He cannot be a spiritual master by birth himself. First thing is that he has to be perfect disciple. So that means a spiritual master should be a perfect disciple of his own spiritual master. And he should be a genuine lover of Krishna. So he should have understood detailed knowledge of the science of Krishna consciousness, and he should be practicing that knowledge. Then only he'll be able to guide others. So he himself is situated perfectly in that knowledge, and he's discharging right duty means he's applying all those principles and knowledge in his personal life whenever any kind of challenging or tempting situations comes. So it's very important that person has realized this particular knowledge, he has practiced this knowledge, and he has been serving his own spiritual master with the same dedicated spirit. Such a person, such a realized soul who knows this science of eternal life, how this material world is working, what is the soul, what is super soul, who is God, how am I entangled in this particular quagmire of material world, and how to get out of this world. So he should understand the current situation, he should know how to get out, and he should be practicing those all those processes himself. Such a person is actually then only he is qualifies to help his dependents. It could be direct disciples, or it could be any of his persons who has seek genuine guidance from him. Then only such person can qualify to guide his disciples, not only in this life but even after, even if he has left. His words, his guidance, it helps his disciples even if he is physically no more there directly in front of them, but his guidance, his words, they actually help them to take very perfect decisions in critical moments. So these are the important characteristics and requirement for a person to be a spiritual master. And of course, Krishna also has accepted spiritual master as the Sandipani Muni to show the importance of accepting spiritual master. And we can see that Krishna, whatever knowledge he speaks, he has already spoken this knowledge many times in his past births. So we'll come to that sections in another chapter. So at this point of time, as a spiritual master, when Arjuna requested Krishna, please take control and become my spiritual master, and now you please guide me. So what Krishna is actually saying, that that he's saying to Arjuna that first of all he actually criticizes Arjuna that after saying all this argument that I have to kill, and then warriors will be killed, the generations will suffer, and all of that. So Krishna is this all this appears actually very logical. Whatever Arjuna is saying is not wrong, but from Krishna's perspective, he is saying that you are mourning for what is not worthy of grief. So of course Arjuna is grieving but for what? Something which is not worthy. And we'll revisit this statement again. What is then worthy of grief? While going through this discussion. So Krishna starts giving very important knowledge to Arjuna, that is a science of soul, and he also explains the journey of soul first to start with. We'll later in next slides we'll see the characteristics and properties of the soul. But first of all, Krishna says that we are not this body, what we are seeing externally. We are the spirit soul or the Atma which is situated inside this body. And Krishna, he starts with the establishing eternality of the soul. He says that very clearly, never was there a time when all of us means Krishna himself, Arjuna, all the warriors, all the kings, their families, all the souls which are residing in their bodies, never was there a time when all of us did not exist. So that means minus infinity. Nor in the future any of us shall cease to be. That means positive infinity. That means soul has been, all the souls and Krishna himself as the super soul, they had been existing from eternity past, and they'll continue to exist eternity through as well. And now we are zooming that eternity to the very few lifetimes, particularly this particular lifetime. As the embodied soul continuously passes, as all of us must have seen, when we were young, our photos were different. Young means like we are going to school and all, then we were going to college and got married, and then whatever, having kids, and later on some different stages of professional life. And most of us, if we live long enough, definitely will become old, and none of that is going to match exactly though. So if you see boyhood photo, old age photo, is not going to exactly match, but we know that it's the same person. So since our birth till death, if we have passed through different bodies so many times, then of course, as the science of soul goes, the soul similarly passes into another body, not necessarily human body, but he goes to another body at the time of death. And the thoughts at the time of death and the way person has lived his life, that decides his next destination, what kind of, whether he gets animal life, whether it's a tree life or some other life, whatever it is. So there is a detailed discussion on laws of karma that we will come into third and fourth chapter. Even some part we'll discuss latter part of this chapter itself. But the bottom line is, soul, actually death is not the end. Soul accepts new material bodies one after another, giving up the old and useless ones. So you can see on top that, so there is a child who is born, grows, and then he becomes old, and at the time of death again he accepts new body. And there could be multiple species, it's not exactly human species. And there are species higher than human also, there are species lower than human also. So it is said, as per Vedas, there are 84 lakh species. 4 lakh species, they come in the human category, different types of humans. Not exactly what we see on this planet. There are many species which we do not see on even on this planet. There are demigods, Kimpurushas, Gandharvas, and then there are Rakshasas and Danavas, we living on different planets, as we had seen in the Vedic cosmology video on one of the sessions in past. So soul basically keep on this, for soul is a journey, and when he is in this particular body, there is specific task or there is specific achievement which soul needs to focus on. And we'll discuss also about the purpose of life, what exactly qualities soul is supposed to develop, and is the soul supposed to just keep on changing the body, because soul by nature is eternal, then why he has to take these temporary bodies again and again? That is also important question. Now, while we are discussing this science of soul, Krishna actually brings up this very important point, that the 2.14, matra sparshastu kauntaya shitashna sukha dukkada agama apayino nityas tam titikshasva bharata. This particular verse is very important to understand. Let's read the translation, it's very enlightening. The non-permanent appearance of happiness and distress and their disappearance. So means happiness and distress, they are like appearance and disappearance of winter and summer season, and they arise from sense perception. So winter and summer season, so they, of course, they do follow one after another. Similarly, happiness and distress, they do follow one after another as the cycles of life progress. And one must learn to tolerate them without being disturbed. This is very important. So when we are in sadness, we should not think this is the end of life. Maybe suicide is a very good option. And when we are at the peak of our happiness, we should not become so proud thinking that this is there is nobody who can be better than me, or there is nothing else in my life more to achieve. So this kind of thoughts, Krishna says to tolerate. Tolerate means don't get too much depressed also, do not get too much elated also. And person who is not disturbed by such happiness and distress and steady, that means one knows that even I'm happy, sadness or the problematic situation might come. Even if I'm in problematic situation, I should know that sunrise will come very soon. So person need to have a very steady mind to practice spirituality. It's very important, and such a person is only eligible for liberation. So for understanding this concept of ups and downs in life and connecting that to soul's changing body one after another, Krishna is conveying one very important point to Arjuna, that this material body is actually temporary, that is non-existence. No matter how much we try to save it, no matter how much we try to elong our life by so many means, we cannot do it indefinitely. There is definitely no endurance for the body in which we are living. And at the same time, no matter how much we think, we get convinced that end of this body is the end of life. But the fact is, soul is eternal. Soul doesn't change. And for soul, this eternal life, eternal journey of this particular life, when he is passing through this particular body, this temporary body, if he is not able to achieve the objectives or develop certain qualities, then the next body is definitely there. And there is a process where we can stop this cycle of birth and death and return back to the spiritual world. This, by exiting this material world of birth and death, we can actually return to spiritual world where there is no more birth, no more death, everything is just perfect. All the souls who are already reached there, they have already perfected souls. So while we are in this material world, Krishna particularly tells us that now we are in this particular material world, understand how this permanent, the change is going to be permanent thing in this, and accept that change and thrive spiritually while residing here. Now Krishna starts explaining, after explaining journey of the soul, Krishna goes more deep and start explaining the properties of the soul. Now the soul is not something which as we know, it's eternal, and then it is not going to change. That means nothing actually can destroy that soul. So Krishna tries to give different analogies. We cannot cut the soul to any pieces by any weapon. That means even if Arjuna is fighting in this particular battle, he cannot kill the soul even if he wants. And there are many uh, other warriors who are going to attack on Arjuna. They cannot kill Arjuna's soul also. So soul cannot be cut to pieces by any weapon. No, nor soul can be burned by fire, moistened by water, withered by wind. So that way, Krishna is trying to give idea that soul is actually inchangeable. So this individual soul is unbreakable, insoluble, and everlasting, present everywhere. Everywhere is very important. So that means even on sun planet, moon planet, or even any other planet, there is no place in this entire material world existence where soul cannot go. Embodied soul, definitely he is constricted to this body, but once out of this body, and if the soul has enough qualification, there is no place where soul cannot go in this material world, of course, in the spiritual world also. So he is present everywhere, unchangeable, immovable, eternally he is the same. So back and forth, Krishna is actually establishing that this soul concept is that we are not this body, we are spirit soul. There are so many analogies are given. We are not this means car of the body, but we are a driver. That is the one who is actually driving force. And we can understand, if any of you have seen the death or person who has literally died in front of you, that this concept of consciousness. So as long as the soul is there within the body, till that time consciousness is there, you can interact with the person, you can have some exchanges with that person. But as soon as the soul leaves body, consciousness goes away with that, and what remains is just material dead body. You cannot have any exchanges, you cannot have any kind of interaction with that leftover material body. So Krishna is explaining this concept of soul in depth, and he is saying that knowing this, that you are not going to literally kill any of these soldiers, nor they are going to kill you. You should not grieve for the temporary bodies, because bodies are all these bodies, with either in this battle or later on, they are definitely going to get destroyed. So bodies are definitely going to get destroyed. Soul is definitely not going to get destroyed. In that situation, then why to compromise on duty? That's the main question. So this is the main dilemma which Arjuna had, that if I'm killing Bhishma and Drona, then actually I'm committing a lot of sin. So Krishna actually systematically explains it step by step. That first thing is spiritual soul is something like which is eternal, which is unborn, and it is immutable, indestructible. At the same time, material body, it is, when it is born, it is definitely going to get changed, it is temporarily, and it is going to get destroyed. So in such a scenario, why to compromise on duty if soul is not going to? So duty is most important part. That's what Krishna is going to highlight here. And even if you, some of the philosophers, they say there is no soul, body is just a combination of chemicals, and then it has evolved over a period of time, and then body gets created at the time of birth, and then at the time of death again it goes back in earth. So even if we consider body as a chemical combinations, that it's something which gets created at the time of birth and which gets destroyed at the time of death, still, anyway, everybody is just a chemical combination. Then why to compromise on duty? Why to compromise on the spiritual principles? That's what Krishna is highlighting here. And he's saying to Arjuna that the worthy of grief means if somebody, even after getting this human form of life, that intelligence in this particular body, if he's not putting efforts to understand this science of soul, if he's not trying to make connection with the God and perfect his life, that is worthy of grief. But just considering that, oh, he is my relatives and both of us should enjoy together, and then I should try to preserve along his body as much as possible, and then if he's leaving his body, Krishna is saying that is not worthy of grief. Because let's say even this Bhishma and Drona, after killing in this particular war, what they are going to face? They are noble souls, first of all. So either they'll go back to the spiritual world, or they will get higher births in the heavenly planets, even in this particular material world. So for them, changing body is actually something which we should enjoy, in the sense we should celebrate, and not something which worthy of grief. So one who has taken his birth is sure to die, and after death, one is sure to take birth. If he has not perfected his life, he is sure to take birth again. So we are coming to the end of this particular section, where Krishna is emphasizing that in every situation we should learn to prioritize our duty in every challenging situation. So Krishna is saying that you being a Kshatriya, it is for you, it's better if you die in the battle rather than running away from the battle. Why? Because if you die in the battle, you'll go to the heaven, and if you conquer all your enemies, you will enjoy the kingdom on this particular planet earth. So he is saying that for a kshatriya, there is no better engagement than fighting on the religious principle basis and not whimsically. So he's saying follow your duty, because if you do not perform your religious duty of fighting, then not only you will incur the sin. Anybody who does not do your duty properly, we are not just incurring the sins, but we are also losing our reputation as well by not doing our duty properly. So Krishna is explaining Arjuna that people will think, if you run away from this battle, they will not think that, oh, you are compassionate and you are soft hearted, that's why you're running away. People will think that this guy is incapable, he's unworthy, he doesn't have proper skills, and he's coward. That is why he's running away. So Krishna says that all your reputation will go to hell if you do not do your duty. And for respectable person, such kind of dishonor is actually worse than death. So this equilibrium mindset that Krishna is highlighting, this so he's actually saying this. Let's go through this 2.38, the last shloka of this particular discussion. Do thou fight for the sake of fighting, without considering happiness or distress, loss, gain, victory, defeat. And by so doing, you shall never incur sin. So this particular question of Arjuna, if I kill so many millions of soldiers, I will incur the sin. But Krishna is saying no. Any kind of sinful activity we incur, it depends on the intention on which we are performing the activity. Even doctor, for example, he has a surgical instrument, and if he is performing certain kind of surgery, doctor is also cutting the body, but his intention is what? To cure. So although he is using the knife and doing the surgery, doctor doesn't incur any sin. His intention is very clear. So similarly, Krishna is saying Arjuna that this is, now you are a Kshatriya. It is your duty to fight on the basis of religious principles. Imagine we are in country and there are soldiers on the border, and if they say, oh no, we don't want to kill, that is their duty. If somebody is trying to intrude, and if somebody is trying to create havoc within kingdom, it is their duty to stop them. It is their duty to do the justice. So Arjuna was that warrior where it was his duty to do the justice by taking revenge on all these Kauravas. If he doesn't do that duty, then that activity itself, inaction, will cause the sin, and not the action of killing uh, or fighting in this particular war. So, so Arjuna, so Krishna is actually establishing here why we have to do duty, and do in what mindset we have to do duty. So as long as intentions are clear, there are no sinful activities. So if intentions are wrong, neither uh, doing the activity with wrong intentions or doing the activity with wrong intentions. So inaction or action both will actually incur sin if the intentions are not good enough, not right enough. So in this particular chapter, we are analyzing that how the journey of soul happens, what are the properties of soul, what if soul does not exist at all. From all these angles, Krishna is convincing Arjuna that in this particular duty, Arjuna's first concern that Bhishma Drona, if what I kill them, what will happen? Krishna is saying anyway they are going to lose their body. They are reached like fag end of their life. So better you kill them in this religious war and they'll attain higher liberation. What if I don't enjoy with my relatives? That was Arjuna's second question. I'm going to kill all of them. So Krishna is actually putting forward the logic of performing duty. It's more important that we perform the duty rather than just trying to enjoy, because these bodies are anyway going to go away. So if you are giving them a chance to get living their body in this particular battle, you are actually promoting them to the heaven. That is the second argument. And third argument of Arjuna was, what about sinful reactions? And Krishna is very clearly saying that when you fight with this equilibrium mindset, not with personal gain or personal loss, it is that this is my duty, and with that equilibrium mindset, when you are fighting, then you are not going to incur any kind of sinful reactions. So we are these are like first three major concerns of Arjuna's getting answered in this discussion. And this is what this analyzing systematically all these pros and cons, it's very important that we should get conviction of heart when we proceed any specific activity. And that's what Arjuna is getting convinced to this series of verses. And that particular last verse, Krishna actually advises Arjuna, now get up with determination and fight. So in the second section, Arjuna is also going to ask some very specific questions about this duty, in what mindset, what is the karma yoga, what is the buddhi yoga. That discussion we'll have in the next Thursday. So based on today's discussion, if any of you have any specific questions or any comments, please feel free to ask. We have, I think, 7 more minutes to go. So just to recap, we address the root cause. Um, the crisis situation itself is not bad. What we do in that crisis situation, how deep we go, how we try to gather the knowledge and then take the decision, because this doesn't happen every day-to-day life, that we learn that this situation are actually help us to go deep in our life. We also related that same situation to Arjuna, how he actually has reached to the rock bottom of his emotions. And before started understanding Krishna's explanation, we understood the importance of spiritual master, because Krishna has assumed the role of a spiritual master, and he was explaining all these duties. So it's important to understand who is qualified to become spiritual master. One who is, first, he has been perfect disciple, he is a lover of Krishna consciousness, he has given perfect knowledge, and I mean he has learned this perfect knowledge and practicing himself, then only can preach to others. And then we understand Krishna's explanations that how this soul is actually passing from one body to another. And there are enough videos of people who remember some part of their life from previous life, or some paranormal effects, or some hypnotic way in which one can go through past life. So these are scientifically proven mechanisms, not so widely discussed in media, but this knowledge is given in scriptures and it is proven as well. So Krishna says that this change happiness and distress is going to always happen, and we need to be equalized in this situation. And we discussed about properties of soul, how it is eternal, how it is. So if you look at the pictures, this soul and super soul actually both are existing at the in the region of heart. That also we will discuss in later chapters when we discuss more about super soul. And by the way, this soul is not sitting. Soul, this super soul is particularly always standing in our heart, eagerly hoping that one day we will turn to Him, and that this connection of heart, that is most important. Analyzing this from all the angles, with the root conclusion that why we should not compromise on our duty, and how we should prioritize our duty based on all this knowledge. And Krishna is saying, if you do not do your duty, then what will happen? And keeping this principle of a respectable warrior, accomplished warrior, he has acquired so many weapons. He had gone to heavenly planets and pleased all his spiritual masters, martial masters. So Arjuna was most qualified to fight in this battle, and Krishna is convincing him that do not compromise on duty. Any specific questions?
Hey, hi, I have one question.
Yes.
Yeah. You mentioned like the regeneration, the birth, it's not necessarily the people will be in the human form itself, it can be in any other form.
Mhm.
And also you mentioned about liberalization of the soul, where there is no rebirth, our souls are directly connected with the soul of the God. I suppose that's what the liberal of the soul means.
Mhm. Mhm.
So when is that form one can achieve, like as a human beings we have the
Yes.
information, knowledge, and various means that we can uh, uh, train our mind to or our soul in that way. But what about other life forms, that if you can just, and only in the human form can one attain that
Yeah.
liberalizing?
Yeah. Thanks for the questions. I got it. So effectively, in human form of life or the human forms which are higher than humans, they have this intelligence to understand this science of self-realization. But if somebody commits a sinful activity, having gotten this human form of life, if I'm just using it particularly only for animalistic propensities, like sleeping for too long, like polar bear, eating all kind of garbage without any discrimination, or just drinking too much and not valuing my human form of life, committing suicides. So if person doesn't use his resource of human life, resource of time in human life properly, then such, depending on the extent of sinful activities, such people actually are sent to lower planets or they go to lower species of life. Now for them to come back again to human life, it is not that easy because it's a very evolutionary process of consciousness. They have to go through different species, and then only they can reach. So depending on what they perform in that life, their next life is decided. So this also discussion comes in the 8th chapter, where how our next body or next form is decided. So that is there. But coming to the main point of your question is about liberation of the soul. So as long as we have not developed that love of God, or have, as long as we have not developed those specific divine qualities, we are not eligible to enter into the spiritual world. So we are going to discuss that also as a part, as a discussion from 9 to chapter 9 to 12. That is actually main purpose of Bhagavad Gita, to enlighten all of us what is the what kind of qualities we are supposed to develop. So God is also actually helping us. He's arranging people, He's arranging situations in our life so that we can work on these qualities. So with the foundation of solid foundation of this particular knowledge, when we discharge our duties and we fix our intentions on the instructions of the Lord, that combination, it helps us to develop those qualities which helps us to go back to the spiritual world and stop this cycle of birth and death and migrating to different spaces. So this whole knowledge is going to be discussed in Bhagavad